Hello. The image you see behind me was taken at the 1989 Japanese Grand Prix at the Suzuka International Racing Course, the same circuit we're visiting this evening. The events that led up to the image you see changed the dynamics for team racing in Formula One forever. Whether you're one of the 14 Alain Prost fans living across France and in parts of Liechtenstein, or the nearly 1 billion Ayrton Senna fans living in the civilized world, you likely had an emotional reaction the first time you saw this race. The same elements of team racing you see in Formula One are relevant to the race you're about to watch. What makes the Sim Racing Alliance GT3 Series Challenge different from other weekly racing leagues is that each of the 42 drivers tonight have a teammate to partner with to help fine-tune their strategy. It's not just simply every driver against the world. There are even conglomerates to pool drivers' resources across SRA's 7 divisions. The camaraderie and enjoyment that team racing brings to sim racing has made this home to over 500 drivers. So while I don't figure we're going to see any teammates tangling at the Casio Triangle tonight, but I do expect to see plenty of hard racing for bragging rights across Suzuka's twists and turns. So with that, light 'em up. It's Tuesday night.
Welcome back to the beginning of another Sim Racing Alliance season. It's been a long break, and we're back.
It's been quite a long break, and I think you, me, and everybody involved with tonight's action is super excited to get going.
So they got a straight fight the rest of the night. He's going to have to make a move. That's a Punterino.
Serious pressure from Lustra.
Trying to switch on the inside. Sweeney goes on the inside for the defense. Oh my goodness, right in between.
He's going to dive to the inside of both of them. They're going to go 3 wide corner.
And we're off and away for SRA.
Welcome to SRA Season 9, Round 3 at Suzuka for Division 4. My name is Adam Santana, and with me in the booth tonight is Andrew Reif. Andrew, welcome.
Yeah, no, it's exciting to be here. Glad you and I could partner up here for tonight. Of course, Division 4. I feel like I've got a good feeling about this particular race, and of course, picking up here on the competition as we get underway, the drivers in free practice. I'm pretty excited to see how things turn out here on Tuesday evenings for you and I. I think it'll be relatively fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting race. Suzuka in the dark. I think it's going to be tricky. I think they're going to have a lot to consider. Harder to spot breaking points. So yeah, why don't we go ahead and throw it to the track map and we can go through it.
Absolutely. Suzuka, famous circuit in many an aspect here with all 18 turns. You know, there's just so much to talk about here through the S's. Absolutely iconic into the Dunlop curve. Of course, the Degna curves as well. Degna 2 specifically can be notoriously difficult to get correct, but a lot of lap time to be found there. Same can be said for Spoon and 130R. Just so much looking at this track to focus on, realistically speaking. I expect to see a lot of variety in terms of pace from these drivers. I feel like there's going to be some that are, specifically fast in Sector 1, some that have an amazing line through Sector 2, and ideally Sector 3 should be fairly nominal for most of them here. But yeah, there's just so much lap time to be found.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see the difference in the cars, especially cars like the McLaren that produce a lot of downforce through the S's, and then maybe your bigger front engine cars in Sector 3 with some more top speed. It'll be interesting how the different drivers handle that tonight.
Absolutely, and looks like free practice just now coming to an end. But before we get to that qualifying session, as the drivers prepare to head out onto their outlaps, we want to give a huge thank you to our SRA sponsors and title sponsors for supporting us here at SRA, as well as support from Documise, a modern business solution for product management, Go to documize.com to learn more today. And support from Retro Saga, a North American-based gaming company that provides accessories for your favorite classic systems, including Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation, and much more. Enhance your retro gaming experience today at retrosaga.ca.
Also, we want to give a big thank you to our affiliates. First off, Track Racer. Experience redefined gaming with Track Racer's high-quality sim rigs and accessories. Use code SRATE at checkout to support us. And then Armamentario, a toolbox for ACC that will enhance your chance to win. Enjoy a fully customizable enhanced HUD to change the way you experience ACC. And last but certainly not least, Go Setups, premium esports setups for everyone. Use our affiliate link on Discord and take your drive to the next level. So before we get into qualifying, why don't we run through the team and driver standings? Let's start with the drivers.
There's a lot to go around here, realistically. I mean, of course, coming into round 3, there's not been a huge number of opportunities for drivers to put a massive amount of points on the board, but you do see instantaneously a tie here at the top. KB Smith and Austin Weitzcarver at 185 points, not necessarily closely trailed by the number 3 and 4 drivers right here. And of course, 720 GT3 Evo, the McLaren sitting up there at the top, which you mentioned it has a lot of downforce. It does seem to be a favorite for many, many drivers, especially in the lower divisions where I am. I'm driving that car this season personally, so I'm not surprised to see it at the top.
It's a great car. It's a really great car. And then I think we'd be remiss not to mention P5 and P6, the teammates. Selena and Jess, they are just about neck and neck.
Yeah, 148, 144 points respectively. I mean, if we go to look at the team standings, I'm sure that'll be pretty close for them. They'll be near the top. But overall, we do have quite a close battle here. It is Lunar Motorsports sitting there at the top with Selena and Jess Osborne. Red Eye Racing coming up just behind with Austin Weitzcarver leading the way. I don't really see any significant surprise in that, considering the results that they have put up. Weitzcarver in the Hungaroring had a fairly good performance, as well as nearly a win there at Oulton Park in round 2. So that certainly for me is going to be the driver that I am personally looking out for. I don't think anybody would be surprised to hear me say that, though. You always want to keep an eye on the leaders, and of course there's loads of opportunity for just about anybody else to come back early on here in the season.
Yeah, you have to think no team is truly out of it. You have to consider we haven't factored in drop race yet, and there could still be a lot to change in these standings.
Absolutely. I think one racer in particular I'm looking at, Matthew Wolkowitz, there in the BMW GT3, had a DNS at the Hungaroring, but did manage to take a P1 finish in round 2. So that is a story that I'm going to be personally following here throughout qualifying, which I believe is set to get on the way here before too long.
Let's go ahead and get to it.
Yeah, let's get out on the track. It looks like outlaps taking place right now. We are just 1 minute into the official qualifying session. Drivers were released from the pit lane exactly 60 seconds and some change ago as they make their way now out of the hairpin and down towards Spoon for their first flying laps.
Yeah, let's go here.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and take a choice. I kind of want to go on board with the lead car, but I feel like that's also pretty normal.
That is Pat Cockcroft. He was the first car out of the pits.
Pat Cockcroft, which sitting in P12 in the driver standings right now with 96 points. I'm looking down at their performances, some midfield finishes for Cockcroft. So definitely looking for a bit of an improvement in form here. Has the clean air on the first flyer as they make their way through the triangle chicane. So we'll see how things pan out for them. It would be nice to get that first flying lap right on the board before any potential 4 yellow flags as they move down here towards T1, screaming down the pit straight.
Yeah, let's go on board with them and go on the bumper. And let's watch this, at least the beginning parts of this lap. You can tell already, just having to carry so much speed through turns 1 and turn 2. It's so tricky to get right.
Yeah, people talk about the exit, it should be said, out of the pit straight can really determine your speed through the entirety of the S's. So just getting that line perfectly right, getting that flow down and into the Dunlop curve, moving up to the Degna curves as well, which, like I said, so much time to be found in those. You got to take as much of the curve as you possibly can, really commit early to that, a little bit of a downshift to get that weight moved towards the front of the car and really make that rotation happen.
Yeah, he shied away from the curb a little bit, but it is his banker lap, so maybe not wanting to take too much and not drift too far wide. Really don't want to invalidate that first. You want to get one on the books early.
That much is true. Of course, already down here at 16 minutes and more than 40 seconds remaining in the qualifying session. You don't really have a whole lot of time to go around for that flying lap. So you get that banker lap on the board, and then you can try to push it a little bit. If you invalidate, you still got one more shot to try to make it happen. And here through the spoon curve, it's a relatively good line, trying to get on the power as early as you possibly can, run it wide onto the curb. As they move down now towards 130R, and we'll see our first time going on the board here in just a moment. It's a nice line with the lift. Picking a little bit here before the 100 board. Looked like, honestly, a little bit. You mentioned that banker lap is the mentality here for those races. I feel like they might have ripped a little bit earlier than they had to, just to get something on the board here, and indeed it will be. It's looking around a 2-minute time. We'll see what it ends up being as they cross the line. It's going to be a 2-minute 1.7, which not exactly the fastest lap we've ever seen around here, but still respectable.
No, not a bad banker lap, and Gino came in behind with a 2:01.3, almost a 4. And now we have the times just coming in fast now. This is such a long track, and you really only probably get 4 flying laps here. If you got out early, you can maybe get a 5th in, but it's going to be tricky.
As the flying laps come over the line here, looks like Gino in the 46. That Mercedes AMG is going to be staying at the top of the timetables for now, but that's not to say it's not close. Many racers getting within 1 second. KB Smith, very close indeed, just 600ths off the time of Mike Gino, but still holding on to it. I believe they were second over the line, and they've got provisional pole for now, and of course that's not saying a whole lot.
No, so much can change here. The track's going to evolve. The driver's going to hit the rhythm, and they're just going to start putting in faster and faster laps.
I'm seeing the 484 of Felker, the 808 of Adams as well. Currently a 2 and 3/10 down on their lap time of a 2-minute 2.
That is very nice. That is just a huge chunk to get on your second lap.
And we'll see if they can hold on to it. Well into Sector 2 now, moving into Sector 3. They head down towards Spoon Curve. Let's hope, for their sake, that there are no yellows that come out. It does look like Felker as well, 1.2 seconds up on their previous lap. So they're doing a pretty good job. Losing a lot of time, though, out of Spoon Curve is Adams. It looks like their delta came down from maybe 1.7 to 1.2 seconds.
Yeah.
So they're just going to need to clean this one up and hope they can move it down towards the 2-minute mark.
Yeah, it's still continuing to fall, but he can save some of that here and really nail his braking going in the chicane.
Good rotation out of the car. Can they get on the power early enough?
I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, it looks like there was a little bit of wheel spin there on the exit of the chicane, but they are going to pick up quite a good improvement. They'll be looking for more, though, on their next flying lap. 2:01.4. There was so much time to be found, though.
And KB Smith picked up more time and went provisional pole.
Huge improvement as well. Gino falling down now 7/10, almost 7.5 tenths behind that time.
That just shows how much this is going to continue to change.
I'm seeing a lot of green on my race control right now as racers continue to try to push. It looks like KB Smith is going to be taking a bit of a cool down lap here. Who knows for what reason? Maybe just trying to look.
I think he was really close behind Adams and probably just once, and maybe cool the tires down a little bit and just give him a little bit more space for his next flying lap.
Yeah, of course, moving down here towards the 10-minute mark. Racers going to have to start thinking about their final flyer or two. Like I said, I'm seeing a lot of green on my board here. Nothing particularly significant. Wicks, the 377 in the Lamborghini, does look like they're having a bit of improvement, but it's still early on in the lap. So we'll see how that develops. They're sitting down in 12th right now. It's not exactly the strongest position, but you just want to get up as high as you possibly can, because who knows how things will pan out during the race.
Yeah, qualifying here is so important, though. While it is a long track, there's not very many good passing opportunities, so you really want to get up there in the qualifying order so you can really dictate how your race goes instead of being down further in the pack where you're going to have to push and try and make up positions early.
Last thing you want to have is to be going through the S's behind somebody else who you might have a little bit more pace than. They'll start causing issues for you. Looks like we're on board with Fisher here. About to start a flying lap, if I'm not mistaken. Looks like this will be their final one of the session. I don't believe they're going to be able to make it over the line for another. So this will be their last go at it. Currently 8/10 down from pole. Sitting in P4 now as an update comes across the line. I believe that was from Johnston, the 49 of the BMW. We'll see how things go here for Fisher. A little bit of traffic in front and behind, so ideally no yellows coming their way.
Yeah, let's go to Pat Cockcroft. Right now he is the driver improving most at the moment, but yeah, his delta's starting to drop a little bit too. It was over 3 and now it's fluctuating a little bit more.
A little bit late on the power there on Deca 2, but you need to make sure that you've got the stability to put down the power. You can lose a lot more than just lap time if you get a little bit too eager there. Going to gain a little bit through the hairpin, slightly losing on the exit, and it does look like Johnston had a bit of a yellow flag. They might have been just returning to the garage as they immediately went out to the pits. Sullivan has had a bit of a spin as well. They'll return to the garage, and Cockcroft continues their lap. A little bit of improvement here through Spoon.
Really need to nail this exit. No, the delta's dropping.
Just a little bit of wheel spin there.
That's such a tough corner. If you get on the power too early, you do get that wheel spin, and if you're just a little bit too late, you're still going to lose time just because you didn't accelerate just quite soon enough.
It does look like it's going to be a small improvement, if any, here for Cockcroft. Something I am looking, though, down further in the order. Currently in P16 is Sadat at a 2:02.955. Currently about 5/10 down on their time, which is dropping now. They must have had a poor exit there just a moment ago. They do have a chance to try to rally here out of the triangle chicane, moving down about a 4/10 improvement as they head towards the line. This is going to be their final qualifying lap as the second half of our racers do continue out onto the tarmac, and that will be no improvement for Sadat.
Oh, I wonder if he invalidated that somewhere and it just wasn't showing.
By the way,
yeah, now we're
look like KB Smith sits at the top.
A 2:06.62. 6:62. That is a very, very competitive time. That's going to be, that's 6/10 up on P2 right now. Now our gold drivers still have to go, so there's a lot left that can happen, but I think that's going to be tough to beat.
It does feel like it's going to be tough to beat. I mean, if you're asking me, of course. D6 driver, Squid over here, Andrew. The best that I could do is like a mid-2s. So I would be happy with that time if it was me. But of course, you're in Division 4, they got a little bit of a higher standard. We'll see how things go. I kind of want to get on board here with the Red Eye racer, Austin Whitescarver, who, as we mentioned before, is tied for P1 in the driver's standings right now. So looking for a strong performance here in Suzuka and what I would consider to be a relatively stable BMW.
Yeah, I'm also driving the BMW this season, and the practice laps I've done so far, it feels really good around here. It's a little sluggish in the S's, but that's, to be expected. It is a large car. It is the Chungus, but throughout the rest of the lap, the car is phenomenal.
So we'll see. It does look like Whitescarver is going to be first across the line here to begin the qualifying proper for the second half of the racers, which I do believe we're going to have 29 on the grid for today. So KB Smith currently sitting at the top of the timetable. That I believe it was a 2 minute 0.66 2. We'll see if White Scarver can find a little bit of improvement on that, or if it's going to be a bit of an uncharacteristic performance for the current leader. I don't actually have the qualifying results up immediately, but I do know for a fact that they were qualifying fairly highly.
Yeah, and you have to say, if you think anyone's going to beat KB Smith's time, Austin has to be the favorite to do it.
Of course, we don't have a delta just yet. Just taking a look at the lap. I mean, through Techno, fairly confident. Techno 2 didn't exactly get that rotation I think they were looking for, but very sound on the power down to the hairpin. Looking nice and late. Going to use a little bit of that camera, the grip on the inside, slightly wide though, and it's not the look that you want. You mentioned the BMW. It's a weighty car. It's stable, but it can be difficult to get the rotation out of it sometimes.
Yeah, the turn in there in that corner in the BMW, you have to be really precise, and it's really easy to just lose 2 or 3 tenths just right away on it.
Go back here, see the qualifying details. It was actually KB Smith who took pole at Bolton Park.
Okay.
According to what I'm seeing. White Scarver only managed to start P6 in that race. And based off of what we're seeing on this first lap, they're having a bit of a challenging time here, finding that pace over 1 lap. Gets through 130R quite nicely. Good and late on the anchors here. Gets a quality bit of rotation with that trail braking, and very smooth onto the power here out of the triangle chicane. It looks like a good cleanup for the lap. I mean, certainly there's some sectors they could have improved on, but it's going to be at least fairly good for them as they move up to almost the top of the times table. Not quite there, but ahead of many, many other drivers.
You certainly don't hate that for your banker lap, to see yourself pop up into P2.
As we get more times coming in.
Let's go to Mr. Wolkowitz and see how he's going to fare on his first lap.
Wolkowitz, the 846 representing Bavarian rental cars. You just gotta love. I gotta say, you do have to love some of the team names that you get here. We'll move up to P9 with a 2-minute 1:54. So certainly not bad for that banker lap, as you mentioned. Just the first one out on quali, and we'll try to continue that speed out here. Tires up to temp, a little bit more fuel burned as they move through the S's.
Yeah, I have to say this season, I mean, SRA always brings the heat with the liveries, but this season everyone is on the top of their game. I mean, there's not a bad livery in the bunch this season.
No, I'm fairly pleased with the livery that I got as well as a part of Ghost Rider Racing. Shoutouts to those guys.
What are you running? What livery?
I am on. I've got like a green and black theme going on, which inspired our team name, Spectrokinesis, which I thought of myself. It's not like the same kind of like silly name that everybody else has, but it's just a fun little thing for my teammate and I. We're just trying to get a little bit of experience in the league. But refocusing here on Wolkowitz, currently down about a 10.5 on their time.
I have to say,
hasn't been the lap they're looking for, I don't think, but a little bit of improvement can go a long way.
I think we have to go back to Austin. He is gonna go provisional pole.
Up 5.5 tenths.
And he does.
And it will be.
Wow, that's a great lap.
Good call. Yeah, 2 minutes.
Fantastic.
0.5. Very impressive. And Wolkowitz actually saving a lot of time. I'm going to go back on board with them real quick as they scream now down towards 130R. Need a good line through here, and it looks like they might have got it. A little bit more speed to be carried through there. They are up just about 4 tenths, maybe looking for more here through the triangle chicane. Maybe a little bit too late on the brakes. They power out, and that is a lot of time lost. A lot of time lost. Oh, no.
I think that cost him about half a second there. That's tough.
We're just watching the times waterfall down here on race control, and they were up almost 5 tenths on that lap, and they lost it all.
Let's go to Eduardo Rodriguez, who was just about a 1.5 up. He's gonna be challenging for those top spots if he can hang on to this lap.
We'll see. Up a 1.5 just about here into the hairpin in the Porsche. Pretty unstable car, but if you can get a wrap around this thing, it will reward you with high average speed around the circuit, and I feel like if there's anywhere to do it, Suzuka feels like the place where if you get a handle on it, you are going to get a handle on it. Here into Spoon Curve, breaking just about after that access road on the green line, carrying good speed, need to get on the power early, maybe a little bit wide on the apex, maybe a little bit of wheel spin, and some time lost, but not by much.
Yeah, it's still a very good lap, but not quite what it could have been. But good thing is, they have another shot at it.
Which is true. It looks like they might be able to set down 2 more laps if they get across. No, they won't have enough time getting across the line, I don't believe.
No, this will be their last lap, one they're about to start.
Well, this one has been a good one so far. Up 1.2 seconds as they race towards the line, and it is going to be a massive improvement up to P4 for Rodriguez. Very good performance there. They'll get even one more try. We'll see if they can do anything with it.
Yeah, and while we were watching that, Austin Whitescarver put in even a little bit of a bigger gap up there. P1. Oh, and that's Rodriguez off, and that I believe that'll be their qualifying over.
Well, I guess there are worse things to happen. Yeah, Whitescarver improving the bar 2 minutes, 0.4. We're gonna grab on board with Jess Osborne here, which glad we're on the same page with this one. We're just on the ball already. Up 3/10, heading towards Techno 1. Speed through there, get the weight transfer.
Oh, that was really nice.
Yeah, gotta just get it rotated in towards the apex. Looks like there was a momentary yellow flag, but nothing to worry about here. Taking as much of the track as possible on corner entry here for the hairpin. It looks like it might have been a little bit more speed at the apex than they wanted, but still not a whole lot of time lost, and there's plenty more to gain.
No, as far as mistakes goes, that one didn't cost Jess a lot.
Car rotated all the way to the outside, moving in towards the apex. Good speed carried on the car nice and early. Use that exit curb, and they picked up a little bit.
Yeah, about a 10th.
4.5 tenths.
Yeah, picked up about a 10th and a half there through Spoon.
Very challenging corner to get right, but this one might be even more so. Into 130R, just trying to let off the power as much as they possibly can without losing that lap time, and they've done a good job. Here on the anchors, the final challenge for them, maybe a little bit deep into the entry of the chicane, and they're going to lose a whole lot off of that. They had so much to move up. In P6 right now, could have moved up 2 or 3 even positions, but it looks like it might just be 1 as they go into P5 at the end of quali.
Man, who else is on track? Mr. Wolkowitz, he's still out there.
Trying to make it happen. Out of 130.
Oh, he lost a lot.
130R. What in the world?
It almost sounded like he downshifted twice there, and maybe just maybe got lost a little bit on the track.
Hacksaw up to P6. Was down in the double digits, but had a nice improvement on their previous lap. Wolkowitz crosses the line, a minor improvement, but it's still good enough for 1 or 2 positions. Up into P11 right now, the last racer on track. It is Robbie Toddy here for Comic Racing. And they're moving down here towards 130R. If they can just keep it clean through 130R in the triangle chicane.
Oh no! A little too ambitious. Can still gain some positions though.
Very true. Lots of time lost, but there is still quite a bit in this lap. But the delta continues to go down and down and down, and they'll improve by 2 spots. But there is so much left in it. So much left in it. What a qualifying session.
That was incredible. Just fantastic driving across the entire field.
Can't say that I'm disappointed with that by any means. But looking at our top 2 qualifiers, we have in pole position Austin Whitescarver with 185 points in the driver's standings, only ahead of KB Smith, who is tied by 1 position, separated by about 2/10 of lap time in the end.
Yeah, that was Can't say I'm surprised about first and second here. They are the two leaders in the championship, so it's very fitting for them to be first and second.
I'm just going to take a look back here on what we've seen in qualifying in the past, specifically at Oulton Park. Of course, KB Smith returning to just about the top. They had pole position at Oulton Park. Jess Osborne, a little bit further down in the order than they were last time around. P3 at Oulton Park, P5 here. Going to be looking to move forward as much as they possibly can. Wolkowitz down into 11th from 5th. Wolkowitz, who I might remind you, took P1 in the only race that they actually started so far this season, was not present week 1 at the Hungaro Ring, and managed to take the victory from P5 at Oulton Park. Very challenging track. The BMW probably did them a couple of favors there. You want that stability on a track like Oulton Park, so we'll see how Suzuka treats them here in that P11 start. It's going to be a bit challenging trying to move up the field.
Yeah, a lot of these people, especially in the midfield and the back, they're going to be really champing at the bit to pick up some positions early because it's just so hard to overtake here. But yeah, as we just roll through the field, and look at all these liveries look amazing under the lights.
Yeah, splendid scenes here. Of course, these are the kinds of shots that you can only get in, of course, the simulator. Well, I suppose that's not true. I'm sure that they could get them in real life if they wanted to, but might be a little bit more challenging as we prepare to get underway here for the formation lap. Other notable qualifiers here, Mike Gino was out in the first group, and of course you can't really reference what the second group of racers is going to do on their quali laps, but still managed to position in P8, so a good result I would consider.
Yeah,
for Gino there.
And P2 in class, so you don't hate that. You really don't.
No, absolutely not. Here's just hoping that we can get a good lap 1. I kind of want to get the helicam for that. I feel like there might be a little bit of havoc going into the S's. I feel like some drivers might start to get a little bit cheeky as well moving into the S's. Of course, there's a very distinct line, but if you can force somebody a little bit offline, you know, get the nose in, make a clean pass, not only will you get that position, but then it'll slow down the traffic a little bit behind, so there might be a little bit of strategy in that, but of course, paramount, of course, in motor racing, you gotta keep it clean. I do not want to see anybody get shunted off the track. We want some good, clean racing here. So as the drivers move around, as you said, very dark here in Japan at this hour.
Yeah, just anecdotally, my first few practice laps, I had a lot of trouble spotting braking points in some corners, and now you have to factor in 28 other cars around you as well, and it's a lot to process, especially on those opening laps where you're so close with everyone else.
Yeah. Wouldn't necessarily be surprised to see a couple of early pitters. Of course, no mandatory tire change for this race. You are required to take at least 1 liter of fuel in the pit stop. So as soon as that pit window opens, I personally would not be shocked if some of those with stronger pace in the midfield try to pit out early to gain a little bit of clean air and just try to, you know, run their own race from beginning to end, essentially. But for the leaders, I feel like you're just going to want to try to play it as close to the chest as you possibly can. You know, just make a little bit of space for yourself, if at all possible, and see where you go from there.
Yeah, when you're in the front of the field like that, it's pitting early. It's a really risky thing to do because you can always run into the back of the field, especially, you know, if there's people that take damage and they have to take a long pit stop, and you really don't want to get tangled up in that traffic. So you really want to extend as much as possible. At the same time, if you're in that top of the group and you feel like you're getting held up and you can go faster, you might want to take that risk. This being a longer lap, it might be a risk worth taking.
Very true. Moving down towards Spoon Curve. Drivers are trying to get their tires all warmed up here. And, oh man, I just don't know what my predictions are going to be for this race. I want to see movement out of Wolkowitz. I feel like that's going to be the biggest story for me. Apart from the battle between Weiscarver and KB Smith, if all goes well for them off the start, I anticipate that we're going to have quite a good fight between those two drivers, especially off the line. If KB Smith can get a good launch there in that McLaren, they could easily get up the inside of that BMW, and as you said, a little bit more downforce. They're definitely more agile than the Beamer through the S's. Who knows where we go from there?
Yeah, I think the worst thing that could happen for Austin is to get into a side-by-side with the McLaren through the S's. I think he absolutely is going to want to come out of turn 2 with a clear lead and make that McLaren slot in behind him.
We'll have to see. Oh man. Let's see, what else am I looking at here? Some finishes that perhaps we're looking for. As I said, 29 racers on the grid for today, or I should say tonight. I feel like there's a lot of potential for basically anybody in those McLarens, potentially in the Porsches as well. I feel like this is a circuit. It's definitely more forgiving than Alton Park, you know, give it that. But there's a lot of potential for lap time. We saw that in quali. There's a lot of potential for good lap times in the Porsche, but if it gets away from you, it can really get away from you and cause some problems.
All right, looks like everyone is gridded up, and man, it is a long run down to the start-finish line here, and
yeah, must be tense.
Yeah.
Again, you see the 454 of Smith in the McLaren,
so
trying
anxious.
to gain as,
Oh, so
as
anxious.
much position as they possibly can.
So far up in the grid box.
We'll see as the lights go up here. Lights go green, and we are racing here. White's Carver looks like they got a pretty good pull away from the line. Smith, though, potentially looking for the outside here, but they won't be able to find it. White's Carver onto the brakes yet again, and will keep that McLaren behind. But will they be able to keep it on the power as well into the S's?
Everything looks clean so far. Well done, well done. And yeah, Austin has to love that.
Yeah, back through the midfield. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot going on in the way.
Someone off in the back.
Oh yeah, yellow flag for Stefani, the 877 Lamborghini. It does look like there was a bit of an incident, but nothing too major as far as we can see. I don't know how they're managing it through here, but somehow they're making it happen.
Oh, just a little tap, yeah. Man, that's rough.
Oh, that could have been a big incident as well, but it looks like most of the racers thankfully got away from that one. And the pit window is going to be open here as well, so potentially going to be an early pit stop for those who had a little bit of lousy luck here on lap 1.
Yeah, it's the saving grace of the 58-minute pit window. You get tapped, you take some damage on lap 1, you're not out of the race, and I think that's the best thing about using this extended pit window.
Just look down in the midfield. There's a little bit of movement. Wolkowitz still down there in 11th place. Gino was able to pick up one position. Osborne still sitting in P5. It looks like the top 5 has stayed the same for the most part, unless I am missing something. And White's Carver critically keeping Smith behind in that McLaren, and has developed quite a bit of a gap. This is something we talked about prior to the race start, is being able to get that gap early on at the front of the field and just run your own race, generate a little bit of space, and just try to get lap after lap after lap in and take a nice clean finish here.
Yeah, and not just White's Carver from Smith, but Smith to Lorenzo. They're just checking out from the pack, at least so far, and I think if you're the two of them, that's exactly what you want. I mean, I think they're just going to fight it out all season if they keep this up. This is incredible.
I did notice a bit of a yellow flag for Osborne momentarily, but it looks like it may have just been just that, momentary.
Not too many pitters. I think I only see 3 cars in the pit lane.
I did notice Adams in the Lamborghini did make their way in the pit. That's the 808. So they'll have a little bit of clean air to work with.
Yeah, Adams, Sadat, and Morrison were 3 pitters.
Sadat was, I believe, the lap 1 incident, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So not necessarily a huge surprise there. You know, just get it out of the way early, and then try to focus. You know, get your head down, see if you can make up some positions.
Yeah, let's find us a battle further down the field. Who's close? This looks like a bit of a train developing behind Jess. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, certainly have had better moments, I'm assuming. Lots of pressure going to be applied here as well, because it looks like Gino, he's looking to get a little bit of a maneuver done here potentially. Very, very close behind indeed. moving out of Spoon Curve, and they have to let off a little bit, and you can see the attack is coming from Barker behind as well in that BMW. Very, very close stuff here. One slight mistake could see you overtaken by quite a few racers. You mentioned the train is there, 5 cars long into 130R.
You have to say that BMW, or that Mercedes and those BMWs, they look really racy so far. Oh, we got to move there. A little further back.
Ooh, nicely done. Was they able to hold it, though?
Was that, Wolkowitz on Selena Boonstra?
Wolkowitz actually quite a few positions in this
oh,
guy, I believe,
that was Boonstra trying to get Wolkowitz. Oh, great exit out of 130R.
Very nice done. Space left there, and
oh,
just barely held on to.
Very fair by both drivers.
Have to keep an eye on that battle. Wolkowitz coming under attack is certainly not what they wanted for their race. As we mentioned, very strong finish last week. The only finish that they've actually had so far this season. They're looking to move forward. So far they have. They're up 3 positions, but we'll just see how things develop for them.
Yeah, up 3's not bad so far, but I feel like Matthew definitely feels like and maybe should be further up the grid right now.
Looks like Lorenzo just lost out a little bit. Potentially going wide. I believe they were overtaken by 2 other drivers, Rodriguez and Maxwell, going through, and Lorenzo, who is starting in the top 5. Bit of a poor exit out of the hairpin as well, and that looks like it's going to be turned into 3 as Osborne goes past in the 5th.
Oh, took too much of the curb on the inside of Degna 1 and took to the sand all the way around, and yeah, got passed by a couple cars.
It's going to be a costly mistake. Oh, Whitescarver, yellow flag for Whitescarver. They're off the circuit. My goodness, down now into P6. Massive incident for Whitescarver, down into P7 even. It looks like it might be more damage coming their way. Smith soars in the lead with a 5-second gap to P2. What a moment for Whitescarver.
Going
what
through
happened?
Spoon. Oh, just spun the rear tires up and then hit the inside curb and spun again. No. Oh, and then more. What else happened?
Boonstra, oh my goodness, Boonstra, Whitescarver, Vincent Felker, Wolkowitz, all included in the incident. What is going on here?
Man.
Just a massive moment.
I think,
many BMWs get caught up in this.
we're going to get this on the replay. Oh. I think it's going to be a 2-wide. No! Oh, no! Wolkowitz, and then hit. Oh. You hate to see that for everyone involved.
Massive developments. Whitescarver comes into the pits. Wolkowitz comes into the pits, presumably with damage. They'll get their mandatory pit stop out of the way, but that is a massive development.
Chaos. That is a huge pack there. Man, those incidents, I think, really helped KB Smith. Has a 5.5-second lead now.
That cannot be overstated. That is so big for Smith, as they could essentially roll to the line at this point, barring any complications with their mandatory pit stop. Again, that McLaren is rapid through the S's. If you have it set up right, that is the car to beat, and their best lap, they have the best lap. Smith right now running a 2:01.825 as their best and their last lap. At that, of course, we're only 3 laps into a 60-minute race, but right now it looks like it is theirs to lose.
Man, you have to say, P2 had a 2:04. I have a feeling Maxwell was having to maybe avoid Whitescarver, and man, just absolute chaos on that last lap.
I don't think there's any other way to say it. I mean, other stories, though, you know, Rodriguez, Maxwell, Lorenzo, and Osborne. I mean, Lorenzo, after having that issue where they ran off at Degna 1, that is about the best thing that could happen for you.
Looks like Flo had a moment as well, and maybe let their teammate by. Smart to play the team game early.
That is true. Yeah. Especially if you have a little bit of a moment. You just want to get it done, maybe defend a little bit more behind, and of course you don't want to give up much of that gap. It does look like they're at the head of a train right now, as Toddy does go through, building about a 1-second gap here, but it's fairly close between the drivers from P10 to about P17. They're averaging probably about a half-second gap. So it looks like Channing actually trying to get past Sullivan here on the main straight.
Got the inside going in, keep it clean. Oh, if he can stay there, nicely done by Channing.
And followed through by Taylor. Way
Oh,
to capitalize
man.
on the opportunity. Beautiful move there by the Lamborghini.
Absolutely beautiful there. That's well done by Channing and Wicks to keep it clean there, 2 wide through 1 and 2, and then Taylor just sneaking up the inside there.
Looks like Vincent gets their pit out of the way. And right now I believe Gino on a recovery drive. I'm looking a little bit further back down the field. Lorenzo also lost a position to Barker in the top 10. So some more motion for the 51 McLaren of Lorenzo. Certainly has not been having the race they probably wanted, but they're only down 1 position off the start line. It's been an eventful one, not necessarily a bad one though. They've still got every opportunity to recover.
Well, all things considered, if you've only lost 1 position in this race, gotta feel kind of good about it.
Yeah, surely. You can't necessarily argue with that. And of course, it still is very early on. There's many mandatory pit stops have yet to come. Meanwhile, still in the top 3, Rodriguez threatening Maxwell, only 4/10 behind. So a little bit of action still going on around there, but I feel like if you are the 33 Porsche of Rodriguez right about now, you're probably fairly content with your position. You've got about a 1.3 second gap behind. You're not necessarily trying to attack this too hard. You know, you've got roughly similar pace here, just a little bit slower than the car in front. You know, grab that slipstream down the main straight, just, you know, play the long game.
Yeah, and this is a very manageable gap to undercut or overcut, so you really just be patient here and wait to see if maybe Maxwell maybe makes a small mistake and you can slide through. If not, you just wait a little bit longer into the race and get it done in the pits, or maybe get it done on track.
We'll start looking at here. Ooh, it looks like there was a car wide there at T1. Channing is going to move up against Johnston, who I believe was trying to get up behind Hacksaw in P11. And Channing will take a position into the S's. So a little bit of a move completed there. They're up into P12. And now going to try to challenge Hacksaw. A little bit of part of that train I was talking about from P10 to about P17. There's quite a bit of opportunity for all of the cars down there to make something happen. Very small gaps indeed.
Yeah, with all these cars so close, I think that's going to be the story of the race for the next 3 or 4 laps until we maybe see some spread. They're just so close, even a small mistake is just going to hurt you.
Of course, when you're flying this close, oh, the car goes wide. The rejoin does look like it's going to be safe there. I believe that was Sullivan who went off track. It's going to award some positions to Wicks and Boonstra. So a little bit of favor headed their way, and that'll certainly break up a little bit of the action there in the midfield.
Yeah, let's see if we can catch that on replay.
It looked like it was just a little bit wide at Degna 2. I was just about to mention how challenging it can be to follow other racers. And they do good to keep it under control. You know, move a little bit wide, only lost out on 2 positions. All told, that could have gone a lot worse.
Yeah, not catching the wall there is really important. That's much better than just losing 2 positions and taking a lot of damage and having to pit and fix that. So I'd say well held by Sullivan.
Yeah, now this is the position where I believe we saw somebody go a little bit wide. Yeah, there at 130R, as Wicks does see the position administrator.
Yeah, I believe that was Sullivan going wide there at 130R on the exit.
I can think of worse places to go wide, though. You know, again, harkening back to Alton Park, as we actually see, Channing trying to get a move done here on the straight against Hacksaw. It won't pan out just there. Didn't quite have that speed up behind him, but into the S's. Again, it's a pretty tight battle here from P11 to P14. The gap, all told, is about 1 second between P11 and P14. So things still kind of running hot here in terms of tensions. They're just outside the top 10.
Yeah, and just another train for me. It looks like there's maybe a little fall off from other places, but yeah, these 4 are just glued to each other right now.
I'm curious to see how that develops. But again, long race as we come up here just about on the 15-minute mark. there's been quite a fair bit of movement. I'm looking back down towards the bottom of the pack again. White's Confer currently sitting in P23, but does have the mandatory pit stop out of the way. Wolkowitz in dead last, 29th position, started in P11, so as far as movement goes, it's not necessarily a whole lot, but their race really needs to shape up fast.
Chat calling out Gino with the fastest lap of the race at a 2-minute 1 flat. That is some very good pace, and the leader of the car's out in pit and has a lot of clear air in front of them, so they might undercut some cars here if they can keep that pace up.
Very true. Best lap so far, Smith. The last lap they ran was a 2:02.2. Their best still a 2:01.39. So Gino is certainly putting in the work. We'll have to keep an eye on that one. Currently sitting in P21. Rose looks like they got past Lorenzo only moments ago. Certainly bringing down the gap. P7 to P12 right now, all within a second of each other. That's a story we've been following a little bit. Flo actually picks up a position. Now the gap increases. Did Channing go off? Or Lorenzo maybe? I think, Lorenzo pulled into the pits. No wonder. I was wondering where the yellow flag was.
There is so much happening in this race right now.
Yeah. I feel like I can't even spare a moment to look at the actual track action. I'm too busy looking at the intervals on race control, so bear with us on that one. Yeah, so much is going on, especially in the midfield. You know, through that middle sector, through the S's, through the Degna curves. There's a whole lot that can go wrong if you're just a little bit too eager on the power, if you're a little bit too late on the brakes. Same for 130R, same for the triangle chicane, same for spoon curve. This whole track is really a bit of a trap for racers who try to push a little bit over the limit.
Yeah, very few corners where there's forgiving runoff, and the ones where there are, you really don't want to go off on them because the risk of picking up a track cut warning, and not the longest pit lane that there is, but you still don't want to get that drive-through if you can avoid it. It's just a race killer.
Yeah, I do believe we actually saw a drive-through. I believe it was during a little bit of action earlier. I could be wrong, but 93, the BMW of Morrison did get a drive-through earlier on in the race for speeding in the pit lane. It's an unfortunate penalty you never want to have. I had one last week at Alton Park because of some pit limiter shenanigans. But yeah, I can speak firsthand. That one certainly hurts. So. Smith. Ooh, I believe Smith might have had a bit of an issue. Just a minor mistake. I saw the gap come down about 5/10 only a moment ago. Demler makes a move on Sullivan further down in the field. A bit of a story that we haven't been talking about here. The 16th to around the 19th position. It hasn't exactly been super close in terms of a gap, but a move was made only moments ago, so a little bit of improvement there from the 913 Porsche of Demler. Looking at the times as well. Last lap for Gino, 2:01.53. They continue to charge. Again, Smith, last lap, 2:01.14. So starting to close the gap a little bit to that lead.
Yeah.
Not to say what race they're running necessarily against each other, but still something to look out for. I believe Gino started P8, and I don't think they were involved in many major incident. I could be wrong on that one.
I think Gino could be racing themselves up into maybe a fight for the lead. That's going to be really interesting to see how that shakes out.
Indeed. Smith still about that 6-second gap to P2 in Maxwell, who has themselves developed the gap to Rodriguez behind of about 1 second. We have a yellow flag. It's Wicks, who has gone off at Degna 2 before the crossover and is going to lose a massive amount of positions. That's 4 cars gone by. Demler, Sullivan, Stefani, and Correa all benefiting from that down in the 16th to 18th positions.
Let's see if we can catch that on replay.
I think they did recover safely, but yeah, just a little bit deep into Degna 2 by the looks of it. Let's see what goes on here. Nope, just losing control of the Lamborghini, maybe a little bit too much. Transfer off the rears.
Yeah, a little bit of a tank slapper there. Being really safe on the rejoin as well. You have to appreciate that.
Certainly going to hurt their race, though. The gap to P18 now for Wicks, 10 seconds. They have yet to pit out. Gino is behind, 8/10 away, so that clear air now gone. We'll see if that blue flag moves out of the way for them. I'm sure that they'll make it happen cleanly. We'll just keep an eye on it. I'm still looking further up the field here. Again, it's P8 to P12 now, all within about a second of each other. Yeah, that's certainly going to hurt for Wicks. Demler pits out.
Yeah, I was just checking a little something, and looks like it's about a 36-second pit loss for time for stopping and taking your 1 liter of fuel, and that's probably ideal. So we can say somewhere between 38 and 40 seconds. We'll have to see if Gino can drive into that gap and maybe take a surprise win here from KB Smith.
Oh, yeah, and you know what? I actually mistaken. I said it was a blue flag. It is indeed not. They are racing for position. They're definitely not racing the same race per se, but Gino is going to lose a bit of time here. They ran a 2:02.47 as they caught up. They're going to try to make the move here, though.
Ooh, yeah.
Out of the S's. Nicely played there for Gino. They get past. Way to do it tidily as well.
Yeah, it could have been a little bit Wicks knowing that Gino isn't their race and thinking no reason to lose time fighting for it, but either way, Gino's back on his way.
Very true. Looking back in the top 10 here, Toddy has had a pretty quality race, if I recall correctly, starting P15, up into P9 now. I don't believe they've taken their pit stop, but still going to be a very strong improvement. They've probably got some fairly good faith in their pace as well. Last lap was a 2:03.1. Their best at 2:02.8. So certainly a little bit of pace in that Mercedes, which you said was having a fairly good performance so far here on Suzuka.
Yeah, historically the Mercedes is a very good car around here. For a long time it was the best. Now not so much, but it's still one of the better cars around this circuit.
Next in the background of that fight here, Hacksaw taken by Channing into the triangle chicane. They're going to pit out now, actually.
Oh!
Toddy into the pits.
And Hacksaw.
Hacksaw as well. Maybe going to try and gain some clean air, dip out of that fight. Like I said, you know, strong pace, realistically, for both of those drivers. Third actually joins them. It is Boonstra, who dips out in the pits to get that mandatory pit out of the way.
Yeah, I have to say it's almost like pitting a little bit in no man's land here. In my opinion, you pit really early, you pit really late, but sometimes you just have to pit when it seems like it's the right thing and just kind of deal with the having to warm the tires back up.
We'll see how things go for them. Of course, it is not a mandatory tire change. It is a mandatory 1 liter of fuel, if I'm not mistaken. Was a mandatory tire change for last week at Old Park. Not so here in Japan. I'm looking at Demler now in the back. Of course, this is a little bit further down the field, I believe, now having taken their mandatory pit stop, 3/10 behind Sadet here into the S's. We've already seen a move here on the exit of the second S once. Will we see it again? Does not quite look like it. They might be looking for something out of the Dunlop curve and into Degna 1.
Yeah, I have to say the next good chance we're going to have is into the hairpin, but even that'll be really tricky.
We've already seen a couple of mistakes here at Degna 2 so far tonight. Looks like they'll get through it cleanly this time around. Not necessarily surprised. Quite skilled racers here. But yeah, Demler, a name that we've actually said a couple of times tonight against Sadat, who might have had a bit of a difficult time. Qualified quite low down, if memory serves, and had an incident on lap 1. So definitely not their race. But they are indeed trying to fight here from P20, trying to make a little bit of recovery. P20, of course, out of 29. I'm going to tune back in here with Gino just for a second to see their last lap time at 2:02.61. They've got a little bit of clean air, so still on the charge is Mike Gino of Ghost Rider Racing's Mercenaries. Haha, casual plug for Ghost Rider. But yeah, still strong pace from them.
Yeah, but crucially 3/10 slower than Smith on the last lap.
Well, they just updated though 2:02.397. So the lap before was indeed slower, but they're keeping pace, so to speak. And it doesn't look like the gap for Smith has come down to about 5 seconds here to Maxwell in P2, the 697 Ferrari of Maxwell. So we'll just have to keep an eye on the front of the field as that develops. It looks like we've got enough of a spread, though. Most of the gaps are to a second or more, save for the battle between P6 and P7. That's Fisher and Rose. P9 Channing against P10 Taylor. So a little bit of developments happening there near the top 10, just about. But other than that, it's fairly clean racing from here on. It's about consistency for the remaining 35 minutes of Suzuka. It's only going to get darker, so we'll see how things pan out.
Yeah, it took a little longer than I thought it would, but this race seems like everyone's finally settling in. Not a lot of mistakes and not a lot of action, but that could start kicking off again at any time.
Indeed it could. Rose and Fisher, looks like this might be a battle that's due to culminate in a lap or two. So the gap is coming down here, only 3/10 out of the triangle chicane. We might see an attempt at a move into T1. They look pretty far behind here in the Mercedes against that McLaren. The Mercedes, I feel like a bit more bulky through the S's. So if Fisher gets ahead here, they're going to have a much better time through there. It's a yellow flag for Barker. Barker, who I believe it was just a temporary moment there. They had a bit of an incident at, was it T1?
Yeah, I think that would have been in T1 and T2. I think we'll have it on the replay here in a second.
Well, one or the other. They do move down 2 positions. They're going to have to engage now in that fight between 5th, 6th, and now 7th included in that.
No, we did not get it.
There's a momentary yellow flag for Demler as well. They didn't appear to lose much, if any, time, so perhaps just running a little bit wide off the exit, but nothing really, thankfully, nothing really significant out of those 2 incidents. Smith put down last lap, 2:03.147. Gino continues on the charge, 2:02.372. Again, on potentially different races here, but still something to keep an eye on. Kind of want to tune in back to Austin Whitescarver, who has made their mandatory pit stop, currently sitting in P18, about a second behind P17, who is also in a battle with another Lamborghini ahead. Austin Whitescarver having to make a bit of a recovery drive after that massive incident they had earlier on at spin at the exit of the Spoon corner. And then I believe they were also involved in what was a not insignificant pileup, which involved, I think, 4 or 5 cars.
Yeah, but you have to say, Austin's pace so far since having to pit and fix that damage, last lap at 2:01.5, that is very fast. If he can keep that pace up, he might not be in shot for a podium, but maybe a top 10? That'd be a very good recovery drive.
There's a lot of time left in this race. We've been talking about Gino versus Smith, who, again, Smith setting last lap, 2:03 flat. So still lacking a little bit of that pace in comparison to some of those that are running further back in the field. And, of course, Smith still yet to make that mandatory pit stop. Nobody knows where they'll come out in that order. But Whitescarver now reducing that gap to P17 quite significantly over the course of the last couple of laps. We see Correa pit out, Flo pits out. Morrison in the back of the field does have a bit of a spin here, the Dunlop curve. Might cause a couple of issues for a couple of racers. But it looks like they've got it back under control fairly quickly here. It should be relatively innocuous.
Oh, they are stopped. And they return to
the
pits.
pit.
I wonder if that was some really heavy damage.
I don't believe they had contact with the barrier. I caught on the tail end. Like a pretty normal spin to me, perhaps.
They spun? No, it wasn't.
Maybe it was some severe damage on the front, but one way or the other, they were running
Maybe
low
when
down
they
in the
spin it
order.
around? No. Yeah, I gotta think they maybe could have continued there.
I mean, dejection. I mean, morale is a real factor.
Yeah.
Of course, in all forms of sport. Perhaps just getting a little bit dejected with themselves after experiencing an issue. We've all been there before, so maybe just bowing out of the race. Whitescarver, though, continues on the charge. We pick up back on this story. Has been a fairly good recovery drive so far.
Adams goes wide.
Will that be the position, though? They're going to move down towards Spoon. It does not quite look like it. I'm sure Whitescarver would be more than happy to move past here. Of course, one of the stronger racers in terms of pace over the course of a couple of laps. Their best lap.
Adams touched the grass under braking and held it. Wow, nicely done to keep control of the car.
Either way, though, that gives the position to Whitescarver, who, you know, as we were just talking about, it's going to be quite good for them. Adams coming back, though, in towards 130R. Might try to make a bit of a return move happen. This is a direct one-to-one race, if I'm not mistaken. I believe Adam has already made the mandatory pit stop.
They have.
But losing so much time there.
I think that was really crucial for Whitescarver. That's just another driver he doesn't have to worry about passing, and he has a little bit more free air in front of him.
Absolutely. Like I said, you know, Whitescarver, that last lap, I believe, yes, they just crossed the line only a moment ago, a 2:02.68, and that was with potentially a little bit of traffic there. So they still continue to charge forward. 2:02.28 was the last lap for Gino, who holds on to the best lap time of the session so far. Still waiting for Smith to pit out. We are now about halfway into the race. So lots of developments here. Of course, Whitescarver to the back of the field. Wolkowitz currently in last place. Must have had quite the incident. I did see them in the pit for a bit more time than some of the others that were caught up in the incident that caused that damage.
Yeah, they wasn't exactly sure on the replay. Either got pit maneuvered by someone or maybe moved over too early and just spun off the front of someone's car, but they hit that wall really hard. And I wouldn't be surprised if Wolkowitz had a minute plus of damage from that.
Yeah, currently sitting 33 seconds behind P26 right now, who themselves are 24 seconds behind P25. So not a whole lot of hope for Wolkowitz, who was the winner at Oulton Park. Certainly not the result that they were hoping for, nor the result that they probably expected. But of course, with drop races on the table, this might just have to be one of them.
Well, Wolkowitz didn't race at Hungaroring, correct? That would take their drop race. So yeah, they've got to stay out on track and just secure however many points they can.
A little bit of action in the top 10. The 230 of Barker, that BMW against the 898 of Rose, about half a second behind into the S's.
I think Barker got around Rose. Maybe we missed it. I thought Barker was behind Rose.
Maybe we did. I mean, it's still a close battle, nonetheless. I'm also keeping an eye on the top three. Rodriguez has started to make a couple of inroads against Maxwell. There's within a second, not quite close enough for a strike just yet. But that has been an ongoing battle. All three of the top three, if I'm not mistaken, have yet to pit out. So it's going to be an interesting fight for the podium. No doubt, between Whitescarver, Gino, Maxwell, Rodriguez, Smith, potentially Osborne in the mix with that one. They do sit 6 seconds behind the top three at the moment, but still some potential there.
Yeah, our top 11 right now have not pitted. And Gino remains the top of the drivers that have pitted. And I think Gino might be bothering KB Smith when KB Smith exits the pits. This is going to be really close, I think.
We're just kind of holding our breath until that moment happens. Whitescarver getting up close behind P13 now. They've made some additional moves. Adams has fallen to the pole position sitter. You know, Whitescarver, they move down now towards Spoon Curve. We've seen a little bit of action here a couple of laps ago. We'll see if anything manifests this go around.
Ooh, Wicks almost went wide there. Maxwell is in the pits from P3. This will be very interesting to see. Let's go to Gino and see where Maxwell comes out in relation.
On board Maxwell, they've just stopped now in the pits, so it looks like that is going to be the position for Gino without contest. Rodriguez is also going to be happy about that. A little bit more clean air in front. Of course, they had a little bit of a gap to the then P2 driver, but you know, a little bit more space in front will never be a bad thing.
Yeah, Gino takes it pretty easy there.
Yeah. No surprise on that one. White's car, I believe, just getting the move done just about on Adams in T1, actually going around the outside, trying to get that move put away, but not quite there. Excuse me, I said Adams. It was Wicks. The move, of course, was not for. See a little flag in the background. Korea is off the track and stopped and into the pits. The 199 Ferrari of Korea into the pits and potentially out of the race. So it looks like they do drop off of my timing sheet.
Oh, must have had a moment at 130R.
Unfortunate to see.
Now everything's too deep in there. They just stopped and interesting. Wonder if they maybe had a hardware failure, maybe, or I don't know. That's an odd one.
Well, one way or the other, that's one less Ferrari.
Is that our leader is in the pits? Our leader is in the pits.
Now here comes the huge shakeup. White's Carver still trying to make inroads against Wicks in the background. Gino, of course, the potential benefactor from this pit stop, currently making their way down just out of the exit of Spoon.
Yeah, I think Smith's gonna have it, but so far Gino's had the better pace since coming out of the pits.
Smith still not rolling yet. Gino into the triangle chicane. Smith now rolling out of the pits, and it looks like Smith does indeed have it. A couple of more pits coming in. Barker's in the pits. Johnston also in the pits. A racer that we haven't really had to speak much about. But yeah, looks like Gino coming up on the 454 right now. They're going to come out neck and neck just about. And the gap, 1 second, even inside 1 second, into T1. As our provisional race leaders sitting in 8th and 9th right now. Mike Gino is on the chart. They have been for some time, but you can't keep out White Carver, only sitting about 8 seconds all told behind Gino, presently speaking, and looking to make that move on Wicks. If they had gotten past that Lamborghini earlier on, who knows where they'd be.
Man, you know who could be the big winner out of all this is Rodriguez, who stayed out. And maybe Smith and Gino just start having a fight, and Rodriguez can go long and pit at the last second and maybe come out ahead of both of them. Oh, Smith has to stop and go third, and we missed that. He must have sped in the pit lane. Oh, no. That...
Toddy off the track.
That is
Toddy
a race
off the track
ender.
in the first S, or excuse me, the exit of the first S, completely the wrong way. Toddy was having a fairly good race up until that point. Completely turned around, does rejoin, but down into P17 for the 123 Mercedes of Robbie Toddy. That is going to hurt.
Let's
and
hope that
attack
wasn't
immediately.
Let's hope that wasn't teammate on teammate violence. And we didn't quite get it on replay. I think that was maybe they lost the car on their own. But yeah, that's rough.
Certainly going to hurt. Gino 0.2 seconds behind Smith, looking for the move, and I believe Smith,
I think, let him go.
Lifted off out of the exit of Spoon potentially, or maybe had a bit of a moment. Either way, that's Gino into the provisional lead of the race. Their last lap, a 2:01.955, and they get past what was the race leader, as you mentioned. Smith with that stop and go. Quite an unfortunate scene. I don't know how we missed that at the start. It's good of you to have pointed that out, because I certainly would have missed it.
Well, it's only in Big Red for us to see, and we managed to go half a lap without seeing it, but we did catch it. That's a killer for Smith, and what that does do is that does a huge favor for White's Carver. White's Carver's now back ahead of Smith.
Still, though, can't get past Wicks. That must have been a fierce defense from a racer who certainly does not have the raw pace. I mean, their fastest lap is a second slower than what White's Carver has put down in this session, but Wicks continues to hold the pole sitter behind.
Not just that, but Wicks is the car that got caught up in some contact on the first lap, so at least carrying a little bit of damage.
In fairness for Whitescarver at this point, you know, it's a good recovery drive even if you finish P11, so perhaps just trying not to take a massive amount of risk here. Maxwell does currently sit ahead, which is the 697 Ferrari that we talked about, pitted out earlier on, was in P2 prior to that. And Rodriguez has yet to take their pit. Their last lap, a 2:03.2, so the pace not quite there. Maxwell also ran a 2:03.75, so they are...
Whitescarver hit Wicks, no! Oh. Wicks just cannot catch a break tonight.
I didn't catch that. Was that a bump from Whitescarver?
Yeah, I think Austin just broke a little late into the hairpin and just bumped him.
Thankfully, we got the replay here. Out at Degna 2. Good exit from Whitescarver.
I think we might just miss the point of contact. Nope, there it is. Oh, just a little tap.
No. Oh.
Yeah, I think at that point Wicks had already gotten off the brakes and was getting ready to accelerate, so just had no weight on the car, and just that small bump just spun him around.
That drops Wicks down 2 positions. Adams got past as well. They are in contention for that spot. Is the gap currently 0.8 seconds from P11 to P12. That one's going to hurt, though, and that might just be a penalty for Whitescarver as well, but they've got to get their head down and focus on the race at hand. They could still be challenging here for the lead.
Yeah, with the pace that Austin's been having, he maybe could catch back up to Gino. It'd be a tall order, but the way this race is going, you never know what's going to happen, and he just could find himself right back there at the front.
Wicks into the pits now. Can't necessarily blame him.
Man.
I believe that does make their mandatory pit stop. They're among some of the last on the grid to make that pit stop. Indeed, Rodriguez is still out. Their last lap, a 2:02.627, so starting to get that pace back up to where it needs to be, but they're going to lose a lot of time on that pit stop. Now might be the time for. There's loads of clean air for Gino and Whitescarver and Maxwell, all currently sitting in the top 3 if we've done our calculations right, and I believe we have.
Yeah, and we're still looking at the top 7 that haven't pitted, and I think you have to say, considering how spread apart they are, that most, if not all of them, are going to pit on the last lap. Or the last lap they can't pit on.
Could potentially be. There is quite a bit of clean air for those in the 1st to 4th positions. Channing is right behind Rose, about a second behind. I've seen that drop down within 1 second a couple of times, but I don't believe they've ever necessarily been in striking distance. A little bit further down the field, we see Boonstra close behind Demler. A bit of a story that we've been following with both of those drivers. Lorenzo similarly behind Hacksaw, but I believe Boonstra is going to be the story I'm looking after here, as they do make a pass here, just out of the hairpin. Or just about make a pass.
Demler's holding on a little bit there. I think Boonstra will have it there on the inside going into Spoon.
Oh, maybe just about. Thinks better of it. Very good respect from both these racers. Looks like it's just going to be about the exit of 130R. In these Porsches here, like we said, unstable vehicles. There's a lot that could change here in 130R. Boonstra maybe trying to force a little bit of thought out of the opposition in front. Doesn't look like they've got that gap down. And they will stay behind here for the triangle chicane. Try to get that better run out. It looks like it might have to be next lap or the next 2 to get that move done. Sadat is quite happy with that battle happening a little bit behind. They get close, they surely do. But not quite contact there between Boonstra and Demler. Of course it was as soon as I looked away over to my timing sheet to see what the time was just about, and oh my goodness, Boonstra!
Yeah.
I commend you for the bravery, getting this close to the diffuser of the Porsche in front. Demler has got to be just shaking in their boots right about now. I don't know how in the world you keep your concentration in a situation like this.
It's not easy. It's not easy, and Selena is desperate to get by Dilmer right now.
Degna 1 and 2 coming up. Corners that have seen a lot of action so far this race. doesn't look like they're going to make it through cleanly. But, oh, Dempler maybe losing a little bit of speed. If Boonstra wasn't immediately behind, probably would have been able to get on the power just a little bit earlier into the hairpin here. This is where the action was not so long ago. Dempler takes the narrow line to try to defend that one. They might lose out a little bit on the exit, but they just hold the line. There's just nowhere for Boonstra to try to get that switchback done. They can't go to the outside. Dempler's got it covered off. A quality defense all around.
Yeah, well done by Dempler, and it's so hard to overtake the same cars you're driving because it's strong and weak in the same places, so it's really hard to make something happen.
Let's keep on board that fight again. Lorenzo coming on Hacksaw further up the field. That's for P15. Flo fighting Barker for P12 at present.
Yeah, let's go to that one.
On the main straight here. Still keeping an eye out for those top 7 if they choose to pit anytime in the near future. Gino continues to move forward through the field. A 2:02.4 is the last lap. Rodriguez 2:03.13. So the current race leader most likely going to be losing out that position after that pit stop. Maybe try to just run it as long as they possibly can, as you mentioned. To the very end of the pit window, just about 15 minutes left to go in the race. Pit window, 14 minutes, 20 seconds now as Barker continues to try to close this gap. Clean Degna 1. Clean Degna 2. Looked for just a second to me as the flow went a little bit wide, but it's just a little bit of that perspective. 3/10 behind. We see this hairpin be the source of quite a bit of action so far today, but it really does feel like it's quieted down. And of course, they say that. A little bit better on the power there for Barker as they head down towards Spoon.
Man, that Mercedes just shot out of the hairpin. What a great exit.
There's not much more to be said about this. I mean, Flo and Barker right now fighting for that P12 position. It's certainly a little bit of good value points. I mean, in a race of 29 drivers, as Taylor pits out here from the top 7. But in a race of 29 drivers, you know, just getting that one position from P13 to P12, it's clean air all in front, 17 seconds from Flo up to Adams, who is in 11th place. So this might be the last fight that you see for these two drivers all race long, depending on how things go. Of course, the 3-second gap to Johnston behind might come down a little bit if they get a little bit overeager. Lorenzo and Hacksaw still going on. Boonstra and Dempler also engaged in hand-to-hand combat. Wheel-to-wheel combat, if you would. I have to say I'm a bit surprised to have seen that pit out earlier on, a driver in the top 7. But I suppose you're going to have to do it sometime. You might as well just try to search for a gap on that track map if at all possible and make it happen. And Booster, you just no opportunity to pass Dempler.
Yeah, and they're reeling in Sadat, so I mean they could become a 3-way fight here in a second.
The not teammates, indeed. Dempler representing Clean X Racing and Zelita Boonstra for Comic Racing. Well, let's get this move done. We have seen one incident of a racer getting a little bit overeager to make a move. That, of course, was Austin Whitescarver earlier on.
Oh, that's a good exit. Oh, she's on the grass! Oh, no!
The was there. Holy cow.
If,
through Degna 1. Oh, my lord.
If they didn't touch, you couldn't put a piece of paper between that. That was so close.
That looked like contact to me, but there was nothing of it. And Dempler continues to fight for this position. Sadat in front is probably very much enjoying the fact that Dempler has come under attack so frequently in the last couple of laps because it's given him a little bit of breathing room before Boonstra. It seems like inevitably is going to make this pass, but as we continue further and further into this race, I'm not so sure. Ooh, and wide goes Sadat as well. That's going to compromise things a little bit. Further up the pack, looking here towards potential lead of the race, Gino within 1 second now of Sullivan, who has yet to pit out. I wonder if Sullivan is going to fight this, seeing as how they have completely different race strategies. Effectively, somewhere around, as you mentioned, 30 or so seconds for that mandatory pit stop. Technically behind Gino. So that'll be a bit of an interesting story. I don't want to take my eyes off of Demler and Boonstra for too long here, though. We'll see what develops there in that battle.
Yeah, it looks like they've caught Sadat, so let's go back to that.
Oh! Demler, no! Oh my goodness! Absolutely spins it out. Demler finally rejoins the track, but is going to lose a handful of positions. They're down 3 places now, and Boonstra has the tempo against Sadat with absolutely no slowdown as a result of the attack.
Oh, you hate to see that. Demler was putting up such a great defense, and we missed it on the replay a little bit too early.
That is the worst feeling as well. If you are Demler. Now Boonstra here against Sadat. The only defense that Sadat had against Boonstra was Demler in the middle, and now they immediately find themselves on the attack on the very same lap that Boonstra is now trying to go on the right-hand side of Sadat into the hairpin. Forced to go defensive. They're looking for the switchback.
Oh!
And no contact. Sadat is bumped out to the side, and Boonstra will let them go back past.
Yep.
A very sportsmanlike move in that way. It was very aggressive looking for that switchback.
Yeah, I wonder if Sadat lost it on his own and then Selena just caught him a little bit. Let's see if we can see it on the replay.
Very aggressive posturing by Boonstra. Sadat knew that they had to go defensive. I mean, this was a great situational setup here for Boonstra, trying to get that switchback.
Oh,
just make contact on the rear quarter.
Yeah. Yep, and like you said, great sportsmanship from Boonstra to let Sadat back by.
Fortunate as well that there was no spin there.
And that brings Pat Cockcroft right into this fight. So we have another 3-way battle.
We're gonna have to keep our eyes on that one. Sullivan did pit out from in front of Gino, who now finds themselves in 6th place and really on the charge for the lead right now. White's Carver about 11 seconds away from Mike Gino in that Mercedes, so we'll keep our eye on that one on the timing table. But right now, it's all eyes on this battle. Sadat, Boonstra, and Cockcroft moving into T1. They thought about it on the inside, but they thought better of it at that, and they'll continue into the S's. I kind of want to see some action here, but considering the volatile nature of this conflict so far, I think I'd rather just see him make it through cleanly. We're in the final 9 minutes of the race as well. Sadat looking at a very real possibility of holding on to this position, this P17 finish. They've got nobody in front, so they can focus completely on defending.
Selena's
trying it again
on the grass.
On the inside of the Dunlop curve. I don't know what in the world is up with Boonstra, but Selena is driving so aggressively in this race and has thus far kept it clean somehow, but it's very clearly getting in the heads of the racers in front.
This is an incredible battle.
Try the switchback again. Perhaps not. Ooh, close, close. Maybe a little bit of wheel spin there as well, but now starting to close up to the back as well is Wicks, who has had a very unfortunate race so far. 1 second behind Cockcroft, who is the trailing car in this battle. Sadat right now. I don't know how, like I mentioned, the same for Demler, who eventually seemingly cracked under the pressure, getting a little bit too eager on the power on the exit at T1. I feel like Sadat right about now is probably in a similar scenario, a similar headspace with Boonstra breathing down their back. I don't know if I've seen such aggressive driving and sometimes just go a little bit wide there at 130R, but they have demonstrated they have the pace to close up to the back here, and out of the triangle chicane, it looks like a little bit of time gained there for Boonstra. We'll see how things play out here on the straight, though. I believe this should stay in this order.
Yeah, close but not close enough there. It's just not a long enough straight. But we'll lead Sadat just, being a bit of a wall here. It's well done.
You have to be at this point. 7 minutes left to go now in the session. we're looking at a position where, you know, if there was 30 minutes to go and you're Sadat here, you're probably thinking about the longer term. You don't want to lose so much time battling against these opponents, but right now you're 10 seconds behind P16. There's almost no way you're going to catch that. You have a very real chance to hold on to the points that you've got in this position. And of course, Boonstra in a position where they have to simultaneously make this attack, but also defend from Cockcroft. They can't go too aggressive, or they risk losing positions of their own, and then that gives you a whole lot of freedom to try to just take your line, not have to worry about it in your own right. So Sadat, although in a bit of a compromised position, does have a little bit of leeway here as opposed to what they might have been in earlier on.
I have to say, if I were in this battle, I would want to be. Oh, Sadat went wide, but just got a good enough exit.
But it's close. Oh, I saw the 26. No! Oh, I saw the 26 off just a moment ago. I thought that was Gino for a second. That's the 46 is Gino.
Ooh.
That would have been a shakeup, but no. The professional leader continues to charge forward. So we'll get back. We'll get back into this fight right about now. Out of the spoon curve as Boonstra just continues to hold on to this ever so narrow gap of just about 1/10 behind Sadat. They're
closing
nearly
in
at this point. You're not going for a move at 130, are you? Couldn't possibly. You make it through plainly. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's a little bit deep from Sadat into the entry of the chicane. Boonstra might just have the run here.
Yeah, Boonstra is so clean through the chicane every lap. But yet just not, maybe, no, just not quite close enough.
See Sadat going slightly defensive, returns to the racing line. Boonstra very close behind, but not close enough. They gotta respect the space of the car in front as well. Things are certainly heating up here. This might be a little bit of an inconsequential battle, but it certainly does not feel like it. Each and every one of these racers is driving their absolute hardest. Cockcroft 2/10 behind Boonstra. Wicks half a second behind that. And looking maybe even on the outside of the second S. I mean, Boonstra has been making aggressive postures all race long for as long as we've been following this battle at the very least. Through Degna 1.
Another good exit.
Absolutely on it every single time, trying to threaten up the outside here. Sadat even has to go defensive on the inside line here into Degna 1.
At this point for Boonstra, you just say, what else do I have to do to make this guy crack? And it's apparently there's nothing you can do.
Seemed like this would be the defensive drive.
Oh, he went wide again. Oh, no. But
I think might have received a bit of a hit from behind.
I have to say,
the fourth car in that train makes their way all the way through. We're gonna have to see if we can get a replay on that one. I think Boonstra might have received a little tap from behind as Cockcroft was trying to take an opportunity. We'll have to just see what happened here, but there was certainly something going on.
Yeah, I think Selena tried to take a evasive measure and Pat just couldn't react fast enough, and yeah.
Boonstra just makes the contact.
But then you have to say Wicks, he's gotten beat up all race. To be on the right side of one of these incidents, I guess it's about time, but you'd still hate to see it after such a great battle.
Oh no, that Cockcroft, that's so unfortunate. Was looking at a potential P17 finish if they could keep it clean through there and maybe take an opportunity here and again, but now sitting down in P21. That's not the result that you would want to see for them. Further back, it looked like Stefani might have gone off track. They returned to the pits shortly thereafter. So I'm uncertain what the story was there. But it looks like our primary following point is now evolved into a strange race between Demler and Sadat. These were not even races that were close just a couple of moments ago, and now here they are fighting through T1.
And you have to say, Demler back behind Sadat, as they were not that long ago, but man, I think you'd rather see it without having some contact, some crashes.
Yeah, of course, the gap about 2.5 seconds between Sadat and Boonstra now in front. Thankfully, Sadat only lost one position to that, but Wicks, up into 16th place now. A very solid spot. We only have 2 minutes and 18 seconds to go. We still have to see a pit from the top three. And actually,
I believe
the top three.
They're all in the pits. So Rodriguez is down and moving, but I think Gino is through. That is Gino through. Let's see where Rodriguez blends out.
Gino at this point Just needs to keep it clean. The 697 of Maxwell coming up very quickly. Rodriguez was behind, moving up to racing speed now towards T1, and it looks like it's gonna be a fight. Rodriguez just ahead of the 697 Ferrari of Maxwell, moving into what will most likely be the white flag lap.
Oh, what is going on here? Are you seeing the same thing I'm seeing with Maxwell?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, maybe it was just, okay. Okay, it was just the cam. I think so there was something wrong with the camera.
Technical difficulties. Osborne also pits away, moves them down into just about P13. They come out of the pits just ahead. No, they're gonna be behind the 51 of C. Lorenzo there in that McLaren, so that'll be a bit of a tight fight. Final 60 seconds of the session now underway. Pit window is closed, and so it's a good thing everybody got that one out of the way. You're looking at what will most likely be the official order. We've got close fights. Flo and Barker. Barker 5/10 behind. Sullivan within a second of Johnston, who's very close behind Barker at that. Only 1 second out. Boonstra and Wicks, though, the big talking point, followed by Sadat and Demler. Very, very close together. It has been a battle all the way through. Maxwell and Rodriguez still going at it as well here. They are having a great time here out of the spoon corner. I kind of want to get on board with that. The battle for second place. Maxwell just ahead of Rodriguez.
And the coaches brought it up in chat. What happened to Austin Weiscarver? He is not on the timing table anymore.
I didn't even notice that, to be perfectly honest.
I think we've lost him. I don't know if he maybe disconnected or had an issue, or he was having a heck of a recovery drive.
It's completely, yeah, that is quite unfortunate. I believe this is going to be the last lap of the race as they cross the line. Maxwell and Rodriguez for P2. Boonstra, again, just behind Wicks. Further down the order, Osborne and Lorenzo having a close battle. Johnston and Sullivan very close to each other as well. So much action here coming in on the last lap. Let's get on board. Yeah,
oh,
that Sullivan-Johnston battle. Ooh, huge off into the gravel there. At the triangle chicane, Barker moves up. Now Johnston going to come under attack from Sullivan.
Osborne on the back of Lorenzo.
Very close indeed.
Man, we have to go back to Rodriguez and Maxwell.
There's just so much going on. We don't have the time to get on board with everybody moving into the hairpin. Only a couple of overtaking opportunities remain, but Rodriguez is too far behind to make an attack here effectively into the hairpin, unless I'm mistaken. I go for something special, and they might just. They threaten up the inside, but they very clearly have to back out of that one. It looks like Maxwell might have gone a little bit wide to try to respect the space. All they've got to do is get to the line in front of that 33 Porsche. And Rose, a yellow flag for Rose, further back the field. The 898 off at Degna 2 is going to lose a massive amount of positions here on the last lap of the race. Disaster strikes. We got to go back to the Rodriguez fight here in a second. Well, we'll see what happens.
I don't think we're gonna catch what happens. I think it was a Degna 2.
Degna 2 spin out for a Mercedes.
Oh, just too much speed.
Rodriguez right now. Oh, just had to back out at 130R. Maxwell into the triangle chicane.
Last chance.
Is not quite on. And it looks like it is going to be Maxwell taking home P2. Mike Gino across the line, the 46 Mercedes.
Little celebratory spin there after the line.
Wow. Insane race there. Maxwell and Rodriguez come in P2 and P3. I can't believe that order. Osborne and Lorenzo further down the order, still locked in combat here, moving down to 130R.
Channing on Taylor, maybe get a drag down the finish line.
Might just be.
No.
A bit of a better exit for Channing, but not there. It does look like Osborne was held off by Lorenzo. Hacksaw close behind as well, but they're not able to make it happen. Boonstra behind Wicks into 130R here. It looks like the Porsche does run a little bit wide. The move will not be on. And unless something happens here in the last corner, I believe Boonstra should fall behind. They're pretty close up to the back. Maybe a drag race to the line here behind that Lamborghini. Does not look like it was meant to be. Boonstra, I don't know what to say. That was a race. That was a race from Boonstra. Very aggressive in a couple of positions. I can't say I'm mad about it, but those couple of contacts just put a massive dampener on it.
Yeah, you do have to say the second one, though, probably not Boonstra's fault. I think that one's just a pure racing incident.
We'd have to go back and look at it. But it's hard racing, you know, and that's the way you have to take opportunities when you can, and there certainly was an opportunity there. It was unfortunate. Cockcroft lost out on that one quite significantly, being thrown off into the barrier. It's hard to get the full picture here, of course, with race control as well as many players have already hopped out.
What a race.
But, yeah.
Well, let's see if we can start pulling in our podium finishers.
We'll see if we can't get him in. First off, I want to see if I can get Mike on the comm. I see him down there in the chat. I'll see if I can pull him on in.
Must. I think we got to start with Mike.
All right. Here we go. Mike,
Yo.
my dude, what a race it was for you. Congratulations on the victory.
Oh, thank you.
I have to say,
I told you yesterday. You gotta talk good about me today, and turns out you had to.
We had a lot of good things to say.
I was about to say, you say talk crap, but there was only good stuff that we could say about it. I mean, once you pitted, there was really nothing that went wrong for you in any meaningful way. You had lap after lap of good pace, and you got past just about anybody who came in your way. I mean, it just looked like you owned Suzuka today. I mean, what are you feeling right now? Did you expect this kind of result coming into this?
No, I hate Suzuka actually. Shout out to Bailey Kish. He was my coach last night, and coming into today, I was like a D6 pace. And somewhere in the last hour of practicing, it just kind of clicked. So big shout out to Bailey. Everyone buy Bendy Brew, bendybrew.com. Yeah, Suzuka's not my track, but it turns out it is my track. So going forward, I'll enjoy it.
I mean, looking behind as well, you know, we saw Whitescarver starting to make some inroads after having a bit of an incident earlier on in the race. Were you looking at the relative? Were you thinking about the potential of having to make that fight near the end, or was that something you just weren't concerned about?
A little bit, because I had no idea who in the lead, who was in the lead as I was, coming through the field. So once I saw Whitescarver was behind me, I knew he was on pole, I think, or at least first row.
Yep.
So I knew I could at least, that was a good judgment. But I wasn't sure if there was, an accident or something, because I didn't think I could gain that much time so quickly. So then I had no idea who was in the lead or if they were going to come out in front of me. And then KB Smith, I saw came in, and he pulled out, right in front of me, but he had to stop and go, unfortunately. So I think once I saw he came out in front of me, then I knew I was in the clear, because I saw he was in first before pitting. And I was just, I was looking at the relatives and just hoping they went up.
Yeah, I think you'll be really happy when you go back and look at this one. There was long stretches of that race where you were the fastest car on track, and you were absolutely pulling a gap on KB Smith, and I think you might have forced his hand to pit early. And I can't say you forced him into the stop and go 30, but your pace was incredible tonight.
Yeah, I set the fastest lap pretty early, and then I could never reach it again. I was always with 5 seconds back or half a second back, and so I thought my pace was wearing down. But as more and more people pitted, it turned out that wasn't the case.
Yeah, well, no, when we were watching the relatives, we were talking not infrequently about what people were setting for their last lap times, and more often than not, we were talking about how much faster you were than the leader at the time. So you just had it today, especially considering your performances. The Hungaroring didn't go very well. Alton Park wasn't a bad performance, but I guess if you just continue on this upward trend, you'll be doing pretty well.
It's been a disappointing beginning. and I've been like hot lapping very well. In Olton, I think I qualified like 5th or so, and I had an accident like the 4th lap, so I got back up to 10th. But it's been a struggle the first piece of the season, but I'm liking where it's going. So.
And I think you should as well, considering White's Carver and Smith, of course. White's Carver finishing down, I believe, lower, much lower in the pack. I think they ended up actually disconnecting out for one reason or the other.
I saw him just drop at some point.
And KB Smith, of course, with a drive-through penalty. These are they were two leaders for the driver standings, but now you've earned a massive 110 points here. You are probably ahead of at least White's Carver, if that is a DNF. I mean, how does that make you feel for the rest of the season in that regard?
Oh, it's good. I mean, I always like to be ahead of Austin. Me and Austin banter back and forth. So it's also good because I have myself on my fantasy SRA team. So
there you go.
I got that going for me. But yeah, it's nice being up top. I knew coming into D4 that I had the pace to be near the top of the standings. So it's just a matter of consistently putting up the results. So yeah.
That's all I got. Adam, anything else?
No, I don't. Just very well done tonight. And congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for both for commentating. It's good to have people back in the booth for us.
Well, you're very welcome. We'll send you on back now. Probably pull up a couple of the other podium finishers.
Thanks, guys.
So yeah, have a good one.
See ya.
All right. See if we can get Eduardo Rodriguez. I kind of want to pull both Rodriguez and oh my goodness, Maxwell, but I don't believe Maxwell is in the chat, unfortunately. So we might just have to settle. But I think it would be fitting to get our other podium finisher in here now.
Yeah, let's go with Eduardo. Not just the podium finisher, but also won his class.
Indeed. I would pull him in. My Discord doesn't go far enough down. Hang on. There we go. All right, hang on. Here they come. Sorry for the intrusion, my good man, but how in the world are you feeling? P3 after all of that, just behind Maxwell. I mean, let us know what's going through your head right now.
Wow, you caught me off guard. But Jesus, it was one of the races of all time for me. And I cannot believe I was able to get to P3. Battling with Maxwell was really tense, but it was awesome at the end.
Yeah, I mean, you guys were fighting for the better part of the beginning of the race, of course. I mean, that must have been fairly tense, and of course, considering the pit strategy you ended up going for, pitting very, very late in the race, were you at all surprised that you ended up in that close of a battle right at the end as well, or was that expected?
No, it was a total surprise for me. And honestly, I thought I was going to go to maybe get out the pits at maybe P5, P6, because I didn't have the pace, I think. But it was, I don't know why the guys in front of me decided to pit like mid-race, and that really helped me. Just got clean air, and honestly, I didn't do any overtake on the race. It was all consistency, slow consistency, and the pit strategy. But we take those.
You did.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Andrew.
Well, I was about to say, would you say that plays to your strengths? It can be very stressful. I mean, if you have a chance to go watch the broadcast back, there were a lot of intense fights going on around the circuit. But you mentioned you never had to actually make an on-track overtake. Would you say that kind of helped you to just put down consistent laps and bring home the victory, or excuse me, not the victory, but the podium in the end?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if I'm battling 2-3 guys in front of me, like a couple of stands behind me and besides me, I mean, it's just stressful. Being able to just do consistent laps without anyone in front of you, I mean, it's not the most exciting race. It's kind of boring, but sometimes it gets results.
Yeah, I think we even called it out during the race as those cars were around you. They, as you said, they pitted around the midpoint of the race, and we discussed a little bit, that was almost a no man's land time to pit, and it really worked out for you, and you drove a very good race tonight, Eduardo.
Thank you very much.
I think lastly for me then, looking forward here, you had a fairly good result at week 1. You had a bit of a middling result in week 2, but now a bit of a return to form. Are you expecting to continue on a bit of an upward trend for this season, or is this more than you expected?
Well, I believe in myself, so I hope yeah, I hope that I get the same or better results next races. But I think the next race is Valencia.
I do not have it offhand on my notes.
In 2 weeks' time, it is Wet Valencia. We are
It's
off
Wet
next
Valencia.
week.
Oh yeah, I've never driven Valencia, so at least at least I have a couple of weeks to prepare.
Yeah, well, I guess I wish you luck for Valencia. You're going to be very competitive in the driver's standings, so I guess get practicing. And if you have any final words, now's the time.
Keep it up.
There you go. Thank you very much, Eduardo, and congratulations on the finish.
Adios.
Okay, I want to pull in. I want to pull in Boonstra. Are we all right with that?
Yeah, Selena. I mean, Selena was in the middle of so much of the fighting there, so yeah, I think we go for it.
All right, let's see if we can make it happen. Hang on. Again, my Discord is too there's too many people in the channels. It's hard to move. Right, here we go.
There's a lot to scroll through.
All right, we gotta ask. I was in your position last week, so don't take this the wrong way. But what happened?
Well, funny story actually. So that I'm still bamboozled because I think it was lap 3 where things just went very chaotic and well, okay, so I think it was lap 1 or 2 where I almost had collision with a Mercedes spinning it out at 130R, and then a couple laps or so after that there was a big crash, and I was expecting a BMW was just coming from the side out of 130R and just hit me, and then I went kind of into Austin because I just had no control. And then after that I was trying to find my pace, stayed out after trying to maintain the damage, but it was too much, so I had to pit I think about 40 minutes left on the clock, so did that, hot lapped a little bit, and trying to overtake, but it's really hard to overtake at Suzuka, but yeah.
Yeah, you were throwing everything you had at Waleed and I believe it was Daimler, and yeah, that mix up at the hairpin. We don't. It looked like a racing incident from our perspective, but yeah, not a lot that anyone could do on that one.
Oh yeah, because I was trying to avoid Pat and Waleed at the same time, and I was caught in the middle of it. So I was oh, what do? I don't want to hit Pat. I don't want to hit Waleed, but unfortunately, my car was stuck out a little too much at the hairpin, and it caused Waleed to spin around. I was oh no.
Yeah. I mean, you were giving it your all out there, and that pile up just before 130R and 130R. I mean, there were quite a few cars caught up in that, and that was that was a bit of a mess.
It was. It's a tough corner, and let alone track.
Yeah,
crazy.
Well, I mean, this all aside, though, your pace did look fairly strong, and the aggressive postures that you made on the track, it might be something that some might say, is wow, that's kind of unnecessary. But for the most part, apart from those couple of contexts that you had, it's unfortunate, it happens sometimes. But you were looking like you were making a very effective, I guess you would say, foray into your opponent's mentals. I mean, you were making them think about you there. You were putting them on the defensive, even through Degna 1. There was a couple of times you tried to go on the left side out of the Dunlop curve, and I was just mesmerized by how you could even think about making that happen. That's somewhere where I would normally just think you always just fallen behind the car in front. So, I mean, would you say that that's a normal thing for you? Should we keep our eye out for that in future races?
I mean, yeah, I try. I've been like practicing as hard as I can. So, it comes out somewhat, but I tried.
Okay, follow-up question. You said you've been practicing. Are you practicing on bots? Because that looked, like I said, that looked way more aggressive than I think I've ever seen somebody else race wheel to wheel with other players.
Yeah, I race on a controller, yeah.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
The natural excuse. Yeah, well, I mean, you can't be blamed for any accidents that you get into then because you're on controller, naturally. But no, it was very, very strong performance. A couple of unfortunate incidents. I mean, the finish overall, though, not too bad. And when you did get into a bit of a mix-up, you let the racers back pass. So some good sportsmanship on your part. And it was really enjoyable to watch. Considering the finish, considering how the race played out, do you have any final thoughts about that? Are you looking forward to 2 weeks from now in Valencia, or do you think that there's still something to review here on this race?
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to the next race. Just shake it off from this race. There's always another race ahead, and just take it one step at a time with it, because there's always going to be another race. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Valencia, see what that does in the wet, and from Suzuka, go harder in qualifying. But it's unfortunate. It's racing. It happens. So I tried my best. It's really hard to overtake on Suzuka, but yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. Any final thoughts from you, Adam? If you got another question here, now is the time.
No, I don't have anything else.
All right. Shoutouts, Selena, or anything else?
I'd say shout out to my teammate Jess for getting P14, I believe, and shout out to Pat and Waleed for just great racing. Unfortunately for that part of the hairpin, but great racing from the both of them.
Well, hey, we went motor racing. So thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you 2 weeks from now.
Thank you, Selena.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyone else we want to pull in for this time? Maybe Wolkowitz to get an eye in on the finish there.
I was trying to see if there was anyone else that was podium in class, but I'm not seeing anyone that was. So yeah, if you want to bring Matthew in real quick before we wrap this up, I'm good with that.
Sure. One last interview for the road. Mr. Wolkowitz, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, let's be honest, that probably was not the result you were looking for, was it?
Sure wasn't.
I mean, you kind of got the short end of the stick, shall we say. Give us a little bit
right now. Hello.
Yeah, we just yanked you up and we're off and away.
Yeah, I had no idea that I changed channels. Hi, guys.
Welcome. Yeah, no, that's what we're here for. So now that you understand what's going on, maybe you'll give us a little bit of insight onto what your thoughts are as a result of how things panned out here today.
Yeah, obviously I was looking for a better result. I had the pace. I feel like I had the pace for the win after I got into my groove, but it was just chaos in the early laps, and Austin was racing really hard. He must have had a mess up into the spoon corner, and so me and Riley, my teammate, we were trying to pass him, and Austin squeezed really, really hard, and I'm not sure if it was netcode or something, but it just ended up hitting me right into the wall, and I ended up sliding right into him and pretty much ruined everybody's race. It was a little messy.
Yeah, we didn't get a great view of it in the replay, but yeah, you hit the wall really hard. Do you know how much damage you ended up taking from that?
So the initial hit wasn't too bad. I
Mhm.
probably would have gotten away with maybe like 30 seconds of damage. But when I tried to rejoin car 441, I don't know who that was. They ended up drifting 130R.
Mhm.
And as I was about to rejoin, I was still turning to line myself up parallel with the track, and their rear end just destroyed the front of my car and gave me severe damage. I had almost 2 minutes of damage.
Yeah, we saw you towards the bottom of the timetables, and referring to where you qualified and where you finished at Alton Park, that must have been a pretty severe hit for the morale for the remainder of the race. We did see you get back out on track, so props for that. I believe White's Carver even ended up disconnecting partway through the race, but
Yeah.
you kind of stuck it out and you made up a couple of positions. So certainly not the finish you wanted, but trying to make a recovery drive like that, of course, it's never a good feeling, but
Super difficult, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I
what
think
do you
we'd be
think?
remiss to not bring up that Matthew was. I think you picked up like 4 or 5 spots in the early going in the race, so you were positioning yourself really well.
Yeah, that's why I was like, during the practice sessions, I felt like I was nowhere, and then I was looking at the times, and I'm like, we're posting like D3, D2 times. Like, I'm not too slow. I just have to get in my groove. I've never been good at qualifying. I'm always like the Sunday man, so I've got decent race pace. It's just getting toward the front at the beginning of the race that's kind of a pain. So, I was a little bit bummed when I got taken out, but I mean, points are points, man. I'm not gonna stop.
It's true. And I mean, going back on that, of course, with the DNS, the Hungaroring, almost certainly going to be one of your drop races, considering it's literally 0 points,
Yep.
and then having the win at Alton Park last week.
Yeah.
I mean, you could still very easily be competitive in the driver's standings and in the constructor's standings. So is this kind of just a shake it off moment for you?
Pretty much, yeah. I was actually like driving with a smile on my face because even though I was at the back of the pack watching others fight ahead of me and everything, and trying to make clean passes without ruining anyone's race, it gave me a lot of practice with overtaking too. So it was kind of nice.
There you go. In a circuit that we were just talking to Selena Boonstra before you got in here, who was having a very interesting race, shall we say. Incredibly aggressive trying to make the passes, and for the most part cleanly at that. But yeah, it can be quite valuable, I imagine.
Yeah, for sure.
And of course, as you mentioned, driving in the back, it's a bit of a weight lifted off your shoulders, I imagine.
Yeah.
You might get a couple of positions, but you're not really too concerned about it. It's a couple of points at best, so just try to make the most of it.
Just get your head down and hot lap until the end of the race and see what happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, looking forward to Valencia. You mentioned you got significant race pace. You didn't qualify so well today, but how are you feeling moving into specifically that track 2 weeks from now?
We got Valencia, right?
Yep, in the
Valencia
rain.
In the rain. I didn't do too bad last time we were at Valencia. Like I said, my qualifying is still kind of garbage, so if I can get some practice in on the next week here, I should be pretty solid. I'm pretty confident. The division's real tight. Everyone here is really good, and I'm just excited to try my best. I feel like I think last time I had a top 10 at Valencia, so I think I might try for that. That'd probably be my end goal, is a top 10, and go from there.
Well said. I think we're all gonna definitely keep an eye on you going forward, because you definitely have the pace to be fighting with those other drivers at the top in this division.
Yeah, I'm excited to keep going.
Well, don't let us stop you. I think that's just about it for us. If you have any final words that you want to give to the broadcast before we send you out.
Nah, I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks for coming on.
Matthew.
We very much appreciate it, and better luck next time.
Thanks. Take care.
You too.
There you have it.
All right.
Lots of different perspectives
Yeah.
on that race, gotta say. But most of them, fairly positive outlooks. Gotta say, I'm satisfied with that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even the people that felt like they could have done better, they still are taking away some good positives, and I mean, they're going to move forward. And I mean, like Matthew said, this division is so tight that even after this race, I mean, so much is still up in the air, so it's going to be really exciting to watch this the rest of the season.
Yeah, looking at, we do have the driver's standings updated.
Ooh.
Shouts to the back ends. I know that some people work on that. I don't know explicitly who. I'll have to get a list of that for next week. But shout out to whoever it is that's working on the back end.
That is probably Al Latufo.
There you go. So shouts to them. Thanks so much for getting it sorted out very early on. But we have seen a bit of a mix-up. Our previous leaders, Austin Whitescarver and KB Smith, have moved down to 4th and 3rd, respectively. Eduardo Rodriguez just goes way out into the lead, 246 points. But Curtis Adams close behind, a racer we didn't really see too much action from, but just kind of made their way sneakily up the ranks.
If I remember correctly, I think Curtis was one of the early pitters, and then just must have drove a very clean race. I believe finished P4 overall, so very well done.
And they're P2 in the driver standings now at 241 points.
Wow.
So rather close behind. Like I said, KB Smith and Austin Whitescarver in 3rd and 4th, 220 and 209 points. Mike Gino in 5th, 202 points. Jess Osborne in 6th place, 192 points. It's very close for the next places after this as well. Boonstra, 189 points in 7th. Scott Fisher, 188 points in 8th place. Lots of stories going on here for Suzuka, and it's certainly going to shape up to be an interesting competition for Valencia next go around. I'm not sure if we're going to see a huge shakeup or what's going on with that, but yeah, Maxwell in 11th, 157 points we saw take P2 in this race. Walkowitz, 140 points, very low down on the order considering the pace that we've seen. There's a lot to keep your eye on.
Yeah, that's very exciting. And of course, all of these results are pending stewards' decisions and appeals, but I don't think we'll see too much change from that. So yeah, I don't think going into this race, especially after qualifying with Whitescarver and Smith P1 and P2, if you would have told me after the race they would not be P1 and P2 in the standings, I would have told you were crazy. So yeah.
Especially after that qualifying. Yeah, no, nobody could have seen that one coming. But yeah, it's been a phenomenal race. And, you know, Adam, for you and I, the first one that we were able to cover, I would say probably went fairly well. So we hope that you guys all enjoy the show. Everybody who's out there in the chat might be watching on the VOD back. But I'd say Division 4 gave us pretty much everything we were hoping for, and then a little bit more. You know, quality battles all the way through. It's been great having you alongside here, Adam. And yeah, I think that's just about it for us. If you've got any closing words for the broadcast, then we can shut it down.
That was a fantastic race, and I look forward to doing this again in 2 weeks.
2 weeks' time, which will be November the 28th. For Valencia Division 4 action. We'll be here at 9 p.m. for the driver's briefing. We want to thank you all for joining us for tonight. Next time around, Week 4, Season 9, Valencia in the wet. You won't want to miss it. We'll be right here on the YouTube channel for the Sim Racing Alliance.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.